Anyway, good day to you guys. Welcome to the next video. As you can see, we're sitting in our swivel chairs. So that's one of the topics of today's video, is installing these. The other thing is the bed.
Yes. What about the bed?
Well, I don't know, you say.
Basically how it was made and where it's positioned. And the last thing is just a little video on the bicycle rack, on how John's attaching the bicycles onto a shelf thing. You will notice that the videos are coming out a little bit faster because as from the 9th of December, I am fully retired. But John isn't yet. He's only working part-time.
I'm semi-retired.
Semi-retired. So I've got time to put up these videos. Also, since the last video that we sent out, we said that we had a bit of rain. Well, on New Year's Eve at 5 o'clock in the morning, we had an almighty storm, which is really great because we had a solid bout of rain. It's very windy at the moment.
It's a blustery day, as Pooh would say.
Very blustery, which we're not actually used to. We're very lucky because our villa was fine, but the UAE is not really made for rain, so the villas, a lot of the villas often leak and there are floods everywhere, so some people did not have the greatest New Year night because they were up busy
mopping
water. But thankfully we were all right. We have done that before,
yeah.
we've had to mop water. But anyway, so enjoy this video and there should be a few more coming out quite soon. Bye.
Please subscribe. Please, it really does help us. And press the like button. Thank you. Enjoy it.
Bye. So it seems as if we're in the better area now. We can actually see some scrap yards. So we're going to see if we can find one that deals specifically with Peugeot.
Exit the roundabout. In 400 meters, you will arrive at your destination.
So we've had luck. We've found a chair which they're now going to take out of this van for us and put in our van. So we're feeling quite optimistic. We've just got to see if it's going to work properly. And here comes our chair that they're going to come put in for us.
So this is a driver's chair that fits the van that we've got. And we want to use it as a passenger seat to replace the double seat that's there already. It fits fine. The only problem is that the seat belt was on the wrong side of the seat. So what I've done is I've taken this part of the whole unit off, and the seat belt used to attach on here. So this piece went on there. The bolt obviously goes that way. So that's where that was. So I've taken that off, and what I've done is I've had this little bit copied and mirrored. So we now have the exact same thing on this side, but mirrored around. So that fits on there. It fits that way. Is it? Yeah. There we go. Now, so the seat belt will work. The only thing we need to look at doing is maybe turning this unit around so that the push button is on the outside, not the inside, to make it easier. But from a safety point of view, I've had this welded on. So they're still using the same high tensile nuts that were there before, but the whole thing that's been welded on. So it should be pretty secure. Now the thing is to put it all back together again. Let's see if I can remember what it was, how it worked, and all that stuff. Okay, I received a heavy package from the UK today. This is the driver's seat swivel. Well, it's actually for a passenger seat, but because it's from the UK, we've got to use the opposite side. So, and we'll show you the other one, the one that's in the passenger seat at the moment, later. That one swivels exactly on the center of the seat. This has got an offset. That's why it's important to look at whether it's the passenger or driver's side. That's the invoice. It's a rather hefty piece of equipment, weighs 20 kilos. So, stand up to get it. Some bolts and instructions. So the first thing is to take the seat itself off. Okay, the one thing I need to do need to look at the instructions is which way is up and which way is down. It's on the top, so this is the bottom. Yeah, okay. So those are the two holes which will match there. So that goes in the middle. Okay, and then we need to just swivel it, there we go, to get access to the holes here. Ooh, maybe, see, okay. Is that going to be a problem? Oh. Okay, I'm going to have to bend the brake out a bit. Well, that's interesting. The holes line up. Oh, here we go. I was going to say these are countersunk holes, but they have given me countersunk screws. So it looks like they intend replacing all the screws. Okay, now I need to find a hex spanner for this, but also need to go and get, I'm going to put Loctite on the bolts so that if there is vibration they don't come loose. So I'll be back just now. Oh, the one interesting thing with this is if you look at this purely from the center, you will see that this hole around which it swivels is offset, and it's actually offset by 40 millimeters from the center, so that when the seat swivels and turns round, it's closer to the center of the car than the edge here. So it doesn't swivel exactly on its pivot on the center of the seat, whereas the passenger one does swivel purely on the center. Okay, I'll see you just now. Let me get my... Okay, I'm using blue Loctite. The reason I'm using the blue, not the red, is the red is a very tight one, and this is thread locking blue, what does it say, medium strength, so it's not a high strength Loctite, so it will resist the vibrations, but it will allow me to undo it if I need to. I think I've already mentioned I did use the red on some of the bolts and then needed to undo them, and I had trouble because when it says high strength, it means high strength. Literally just need a drop on there. Okay, now we've got to put the seat back on there and attach it, which is basically just the reverse of the detaching. So the swivel seat is now in, but we've come across a problem, which is the steering wheel. So let's see how we can get this going. Let's first take this off, because we know that's a problem. So let me come round outside and we'll carry on. Okay, so the first problem is that the chair hits the handbrake here as it swivels. So the only way to actually do the swivel is with the handbrake off, which is going to be a problem if we're on a hill, but we should never actually be parking on much of a hill, because we try and level the van out before we before we actually camp. The next one is the steering wheel, so we need to actually crank the chair forward quite a bit, and if we then try and turn it, okay, can you just pull it forward there, please? No, that's not right. There we go. No, still not right forward. There we go. Right forward. We can turn it around and move it back a bit, and we can crank the seat back so that it's in a comfortable position to sit. Now, I'm doing this from the outside so that we can film it, but obviously most of it would be done from sitting on the chair, and then you can take it back a bit. So let me come sit in it and see how it feels. Oh, that's okay. Putting it used to each side. This still has the, which side is it? This option. We can obviously go down and up a bit, or down. Let's see. And tip back a bit too. I suppose that can also help with the steering wheel. And assuming that that will be built up, you can see there. Let's take this headrest off. Well, so you can see what it looks like without me there. So it actually adds quite a bit of space into the cab. So right now I'm working on the bed. What I've got here is the frame which is being mounted onto the wall of the van. So there'll be one of these on each side, and then resting on top of this will be the actual frame of the bed. So this at the moment is just marking out holes so that I can use coach bolts, which I'm using since I don't have access to the back end of the wood which it's being bolted into. And I also want some strength because it's got to hold twice my weight, which is a significant amount. So we don't want this coming loose. Now I want the holes that I'm drilling to be pretty perpendicular to this. So I've put up a bit of a scaffolding here to keep this in line with that, so I need a little bit more there. So I'm first drilling this out to 8mm, and then I'll take it out to 10, which is what I need for the coach bolt. Unfortunately, my wife is busy having a snooze, so I don't have anyone to help me. So I've got to make a plan to hold this up, and from my calculations it's critical that this is parallel to the one which I've already installed, to ensure that when I put the frame on top of it there's no rocking or anything. So it's going to take a bit of setting up to make sure that we land up with it parallel. Please excuse the noise in the background. The temperature's in mid 40s, humidity's well over 60%, so it's a bit miserable working. I've got the fan going flat out. What I'm going to do here, as I may have mentioned last time, is cut a slot down here so that I can lower this down onto that onto the beam. I'm trying to minimize the height because everything that we're doing is adding up here, and eventually we're not going to be able to sit on the bed, sit upright. So that's what the current thing is, and the reason for doing it is a test to see if the remaining metal is strong enough to hold my weight, or whether it's the strength at the bottom which is actually holding it. I've now cut a slot out of each side so it fits onto the beam. So let's see how it does handling my weight. I think that's going to work. because there will be 4 beams with the weight spread on it. So it should be able to take that weight. Okay, now one other thing. This still, if you look at this, the bed is still above that, so all of the things should still fit. The only thing I may need to do is to cut my slot, or cut space in the slot to fit on that bolt. And to do that, I think is just opening up, yeah, it's opening up this one piece of channel there. Today I'm going to try and finish the framing and putting the bed together. What I've done here is, you can see the frame is sitting on this beam. What I'm going to do is, on the front frame and on the third frame, I'm going to bolt these together, mostly to look at holding it in place and stopping small movement. I can't back bolt the back one because it goes over the bolt there. I have moved these two off the bolt, but still very close to it, so it still gets the main support, but it allows me to bolt through. I'm only going to put 4 bolts in, 2 on each side to start with, and we will see if that works. If there's too much squeaking on that, I'll either put a plastic shim in, or bolt I'll have to then bolt the second from the front beam. The back beam, as I said, I can't, so there I would have to either put a shim in or look at something else to stop the squeaking. So I'm using, I think it's 12mm plywood, which I cut here out of the sheet, and then I'll cut another one there, and then I've purposely left, not sure if you can see where, yeah, here, the channel here, and I'm going to put, they call spring nuts in there, so it's a spring behind a nut which pushes it up, and then I'll use that to actually bolt this onto the channel to keep it as secure as we can. So I need to cut out that single piece. I've left the smaller piece this side, so that if necessary we can get to it to get to the water tank. I'm not sure which one we're likely to need to get to, the water tank or the electrics. So I've just picked that side because the water tank is what we've been working on up to now. No real logic there, but that's the way it's going to work. As I've mentioned before, this is the spring nut that I'm talking of, and it fits in there, and with a bit of persuasion goes in the channel nicely, and so you can then put your screw in there. This is the base of, or part of the base of the bed, and due to a concern of moisture and that, or mold forming under the mattress, what I'm now going to do is make Swiss cheese out of it. So I'm going to drill a whole lot of holes in it. I've got a hole saw here, a 60mm hole saw, and we're going to try that. We'll put it on and see how it works. Hopefully it doesn't weaken the structure too much, but we'll try a bit and see. As you previously would have seen, the smaller board I've made look like Swiss cheese. I've put it up in the van and sat on it, and the holes, or the lack of wood in the holes, it still seems to hold my weight okay. So I'm going to do the same to this one. So the first thing is to mark out all the. What I'm going to do differently in this is I'm going to drill from one side and then complete the hole from the other side, because what has happened in that one is the plywood, when you drill through it, the last layer doesn't support the drill, and so actually tends to tear away from the board rather than just cutting through with the hole saw. So I will, because there's the pilot hole in the middle, I will drill through here. I'll partially cut it and then stop, and then finally finish the hole from the other side, and hopefully that will stop the tearing on the top layer of the plywood. Right, next side. As you can see, all the holes have come through. So now what I'm going to do is actually drill right through, use the hole saw to go right through, and with this then hopefully stop the tearing on the bottom side of the board. Now that I've done the bed frame, I want to start on putting the batteries and the electrics in. But just wanting to confirm first, the bicycle rack, which is this, the electrics come right next to it with the handlebars coming over the batteries and the electrics. So I want to put this together and put it in so that I can test how much clearance I've actually got with the handlebars there. So I have these clamps which will go here. I will put these screws in from underneath, but because these clamps are going to be holding the whole bicycle weight on it, I want to just reinforce underneath. So I'm going to put a strip of aluminium bar under each one, and actually then countersink these screws into the aluminium so that there's a good amount of strength. I'm pretty sure that this would be able to take it, but with the vibrations and that while we're traveling, I don't want any chance of it coming loose. So the next thing is to create 2 small straps which will fit under there. The 2 bicycles here. My bike, the bigger one, I need to take the seat off because it doesn't go down far enough. So let's push it in and see how this fits. There's also, I'm not sure if you can see it here. Let's move down. I've put a bit of a gap at the back here. I've moved the bicycles as far forward on the rest as I can. So this can be used as storage and it's easily accessible from the back door. So let's see how these fit. We're going to need to be careful there because I see the handlebar is just missing the door there. Over here you can see handlebar just missing. About half an inch, about 2 centimeters there, but there's also about a 2 centimeter gap between the battery electric ledge and the bicycle. So we'll see how that goes.